Hey everyone, National Master Sean Lei here. In today's chess video, we're going to be looking at a Colle-Zukor game where our opponent actually rage quit because he couldn't find a defense. Let's get straight into it. Another day, another Colle-Zukor. So, Colle-Zukor d4, knight of 3, pawn e3, really no brain, no skill. This is the opening to get you guys to 2000. This is the opening that got me my National Master title. This is the opening that got me to 2300. This is really what I recommend. It's such an easy opening to play, and really not much your opponent can do about it. Now my opponent is doing what we call the copycat strategy over here, but the copycat strategy is not good for a pretty simple reason. He can't copy knight e4. That's the problem in these type of positions. He cannot copy this, because if he copies this, what we're going to see is if he plays knight over here, I'll just capture him. And when he captures back, we have things like knight c4, which is very strong for us positionally. And our opponent will have a pretty big weakness over here. So our opponent cackles over here, and we're just going to play, let's just castle first. If our opponent plays knight e4, we could also play f3 ideas. So let's play f4. The idea here is very simple. Oh, okay, that's interesting. He decides to capture over here. The idea is very simple. Our e5 knight is super duper strong, while our opponent's knight is not going to be very strong over here. So we could do moves in the future to stop knight e4 as well. You could play moves like queen f3, rook e1. Like, our opponent is putting so much pressure on this knight, but it doesn't matter how many pieces how much pressure, how many pieces he puts on this knight. It doesn't matter, because my two pawns are so strong. They're basically saying, hey, there's nothing you can do about this. Like, seriously, there's nothing you can do. Don't even think about it, is the idea. In this position, there are a couple ideas I can go for. You guys know the typical queen h3, rook f3, rook g3 idea where you just pummel the opponent's king in this position. That's always an idea that you guys can go for. You guys can go for rook e1 first, just trying to make sure the knight can't go to e4 idea first. That's definitely an idea. Or you could go for the g4, g5. These are my three favorite ideas, and I really alternate between the three because they really are all pretty decent. Now, our opponent decided to do the I go backwards strategy, which is curious to say the least. And because our opponent's wasting time, I don't see why I need to rush in this position. I'm just going to play rook e1. He's going to play pawn a4. I could play pawn a5, and really he can't play b5. But I think what my opponent is really trying to do here is bishop a6. And he's just trying to trade off the pieces there. So let's play over here. Let's play queen h3. And if he plays bishop a6, that's fine. I'm just going to move my knight or rook to f3, and then we're just going to continue on the attack. I don't really care what my opponent's doing here. He's not really doing anything productive or useful. And I'm just going to get my rook to g3. Very easy attack in this position. Okay, he plays that. I don't really care. He does whatever he wants. But my attack is still going to be extremely strong. So, in this position, as you guys can see, queen takes h6 is a possibility. It's an idea that we can go for. He captures over here. Now, we could capture here first. Now, that is a curious idea, but the problem is, what if he plays bishop back to g6? Am I in a little bit of trouble there? And the answer is probably. So, we don't need to rush in this position. We could capture back with this. What do we want to capture back with, to be honest, in this position? There's pros and cons of everything. Taking with the pawn ruins our pawn structure, but it gives us tempo is the main idea, and it's a big benefit, to be honest. And to be honest, I think even though this might not be the best idea here, it's an interesting idea that gives me tempo. I care about tempos a lot in this position. Yes, my pawn structure is really bad now, but the idea is if I checkmate my opponent, I don't care if my pawn structure is bad. And another idea is if he captures here in the future, then I can always capture back here. My pawn structure is essentially saved at that point. So we're starting a big attack in this position. Another idea I could have played was knight f3. I don't really need to rush. There's no need to rush for me in this position. I probably should have played knight f3 in this position. Ooh, but this move is just bad from the opponent. Can't I just capture here? And if he checks me, I just play pawn d4. And then right now, this is a typical, mistake in this position by people who play Colle-Zukor. Now, okay, I see the idea. He's trying to take my knight here. That is the idea. So he blocks the thing, and then, okay, I didn't see that. But can I just take on f6? And if he takes here, I take on g7, right? Okay, so he sees it too. So I think he realizes his mistake at this point. I don't think this makes a lot of sense from my opponent at this point. Now, he does get a pawn for the knight, and he stops the attack, I guess. But, I don't think it was very worth it, to be honest, by my opponent. Let's play knight f3. Let's get this knight into the game. We could thread in knight g5. We can thread in knight e5. We have a lot of strong squares for a knight to go to. And in this position, all our pieces are working together quite well. I'm very happy about that in this situation here. Once our knight goes to e5, I think we'll be a-okay. I mean, a-okay is putting it lightly. I mean, this position is just good for me. This knight on e5 is very strong. This bishop is always supporting that pawn. This is always very good. We're going to start attacking the weaknesses, things like d5, things like f5. We're going to slowly attack, slowly build up, slowly put pressure on. And what is the opponent really going to do here? His rooks aren't in the game, so if I were him, I would probably try to get the rooks in the game. But I'm just going to try to win the pawns, okay? He plays this, which, okay, I'm going to play rook f3. I'm going to pressure this guy over here. I'm going to say, I want to win you. I want to win this pawn very, very much. He's going to be forced to play g6, and then I play something like bishop c1. With the idea of, I want to take on h6 now in this position. This h6 pawn is very delicious for me. It's something I want to capture, something that I want to take advantage of. I might force him to go backwards, and when he goes backwards, we can always play other moves here that continue my advantage, like playing moves like rook to c3. Ooh, our opponent decides to go for dark square weaknesses instead. Now, there is no good way for me to take advantage of it right away, which I suppose it was his idea here. And now I guess we can just play moves like rook c3 now that the rook is not very useful on this square. Or is it? Can we play g4? Capture, capture, capture. Probably not the greatest idea here. Maybe queen g3, try to go on the dark squares. I'm a little worried he tries to go on the c file though. So let's play rook here. Okay. Let's try to play rook over here. Get that c file. The c file is very important to me. I think it's very, very good. He'll probably contest, and then I'll probably play bishop f4. I cannot move this rook over here, because if he moves, if I move this rook over here, I am losing connection to this knight, which means he can actually win this pawn. And this pawn on d4 is actually pretty important. I can't just give up this guy over here. So let's play something like bishop f4. Idea is he cannot capture here because my queen is defending in this position, which is pretty good. Pretty decent in this position. And so now at this point, it really is all about just converting, making sure our opponent's threats don't land, making sure our opponent can't really scam us in any shape or form. And we'll essentially have this one in the bag. Slow and steady wins the race. This is so important for you guys to know. So many of you guys like to rush at the lower levels. And when you rush at the lower levels, that never really amounts to anything productive. So in this position, all we're going to do is we're going to slowly put pressure against the opponent here, slowly build up our position, and hopefully win the game essentially, right? Not too complicated in this position. Our opponent is thinking a long time when there probably isn't much to think about. He can't play g5 if that's what he's wondering, because I take on h5, and that should lead to utter devastation for our opponent. So there really is nothing else that he can be thinking about here. And once I get my other rook here, I'll be in a good position. Now, in this position, I'm starting to think, I realize, couldn't I play knight over here? No, he takes on d4 with a check. So now that I see that, okay, wasn't a misplay on my end. We'll just play here, and our opponent is thinking. He's thinking very hard. But what could he be thinking about? His queen can't leave here, because otherwise this threat doesn't work anymore. Perhaps he's thinking about bishop b4? He just decides to play rook over here. He's trying to stop the knight over here. But it's not like that was even a threat by me. I wasn't even threatening that. So let's double up here, I guess. Doubling up is pretty decent in most positions. Yeah, this double up looks very nice. It forces him to capture me. And once I capture back, this position's pretty decent, because I will control the c file. And the c file is very important because I'm going to be able to infiltrate now. Now, I also need... Oh. My opponent decides to capture there, and now we have a god bishop in this position. This bishop is so powerful, so good. It's on an outpost. I do need to be scared of moves like, over here, bishop to f6. But in this position, our opponent is trying to evade us in this position, which makes a lot of sense. If he doesn't do anything right now, he's probably going to lose. But this invasion move doesn't really work. I guess he's only trying to play queen d2, but who cares? So let's trade. If I offer a trade, he might be able to get on the open file, but I don't really have any weaknesses, so I don't really care. Let's trade, my friend. I'm down for trading. I want to trade the pieces in this position. The more pieces we trade, the easier it is for me to win. Okay, so the opponent plays over here. He really doesn't want to trade, which, understandable by the opponent. And in this position, he wants to play down here, so let's just make sure it doesn't happen. Again, slow and steady wins the race. There's no need to rush in this position. I'm out material. My opponent is the one who's going to be, in a little bit of trouble if he doesn't try to finish the game off fast. Let's play bishop to f6. It doesn't look like it's a very dangerous move for my bishop to go. Yes, it's undefended, so I need to make sure there are no forks, pins, or skewers that can take advantage of it. But the idea here is I'm going to force the trade by playing a move like h3. h3, the queen has no good squares to go to. In fact, after h3, we force the trade. I play rook over here to c8. I might even have some checkmating threats in this position, which is very dangerous. Okay, so our opponent says he wants to trade by himself, which makes a lot of sense. His king is starting to be in a little bit of a dangerous situation, so let's just capture. He has a couple passed pawns which are a little bit dangerous, but if I play here, he'll play g5, and then I can't even take it because I realize now that my pawn here is hanging. So in this position, what I'm going to do, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to move my king up. I'm going to move my king up. I'm going to protect my pawns in this position. Ooh, our opponent plays this move over here, which doesn't do anything, which allows me to play the rook c8 move, threatening the mate, forcing my opponent to play g5. I'll win the pawn, and once this strong pawn structure is gone, it's basically game over for the opponent. There really isn't much that they can do here. We'll win the pawn on g5, and we will have a good game. So, he has to play g5. Please play g5. I could basically pre-move this move. Now, the only reason I'm not pre-moving this move is because maybe my opponent's not good enough to see that g5 saves the game. So he might just let me checkmate him, and then I'll look kind of silly by pre-moving g5. So I'm not too sure if I should do it at the moment. But I think my opponent is a thinker. He's already thought for a long time here, as you guys can see. He's thought for like maybe 8 minutes here. On the clock, I've thought for like 4 minutes, 30 seconds, but I feel like most of it is talking to you guys. So in this position, I'm going to win the g5 pawn, then I'm going to play rook h8. So my opponent's thinking hard. Perhaps he's hardly thinking. But as you guys can see, it's essentially over. And while we're waiting for our opponent to give up here, let me know in the comment section below if the mic is better. I had a noise suppression thing earlier, so it doesn't hear outside noise, but then it made my voice very weird. So let me know in the comment section below if it's better, and I'll use these settings, which is basically no settings. So it looks like our opponent rage quit in this position over here. He just gave up. He realized the checkmate is inevitable, but as you guys can see, as I said, it's not inevitable, so our opponent is just being bad. He could have played just g5 and just played on. He'll only be down 2 points, which isn't too much in the grand scheme of things, but our opponent decided to rage quit. So, pretty good game. Pretty fun game, and we won. Alright guys, let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.